Oh, there, RC Red Carcass here again. We had covered up the board here, and we're playing a Global 1940, which would be the Europe and the Pacific game put together from Axis and Allies. The second edition. I do have the first edition of the game as well, but yeah, only real difference is a couple little map changes and the addition of anti-aircraft sculpts to the game. And these guys changed. The Australians got these monster soldiers now, but in the first edition they had the same guys as the British, just grey. And all the Navy and unit sculpts actually changed to be different Australian sculpts, whereas in the first one they were all just British, just in a different color. Besides that, though, let's see. Australia's not doing horribly. They got a couple of decent stacks of fighters down here. Okay, let's just wait once the whites are ones here. And they got a bit of a navy here. As you can see, though, the Japanese have a navy over there that could successfully crush this. Then the fighters would fly in and hit them back, and then they would probably annihilate each other. There might be one or two planes left or one or two boats left on the Japanese side. And then that would be the end of that. And then Japan would end up just taking some of its other navy or building a fresh batch and rolling in. Yeah, there's a lot of Japanese roundels on the map. They've had Alaska for a long time. They just got kicked out of the western U.S. The Americans have their lone surviving unit there. But as you can see, the Japanese have a substantial navy up there. They also got a bit of a navy over here, blocking any movement of this trying to come up. And that navy in there is just gobbling up some Dutch territories at the moment. Let's see. So yeah, the Japanese were just starting to establish their transport shuck. They kind of pulled the trigger early, but that was fortuitous. And the only reason that Germany's still alive is the Japanese went all in on the Americans. So the Japanese also went pretty gung-ho on the Russians to save the Germans after a successful Normandy landing and a full killed Germany first philosophy by both the U.S. and the British. It was pretty intensive over there. I'll get to that in a bit here. So this is the lone surviving French ship, just acting as a blocker, I presume here. Japanese factory there, about just placed. What else do we got here? This British fleet scattered around is what's left after dealing with some Italian annoyances that came out of the Med, which is very Italian. These teal guys right here are what I'm using for neutrals, if you're wondering what those are and why they're on the map here, so you can just ignore that. Yeah, so the British are pretty much down to holding on to South Africa and that little corner they got down there. The Italians are starting to move in some bombers and tacticals, and they got their the remainder of their stack there. They've wiped out whatever resistance there was in Africa, except for South Africa, and they're on the way down there to deal with that. These are the survivors of the Italian fleet here. That they just backed off behind Gibraltar. They successfully wiped out a hunk of American fleet there. So the Americans don't have a lot, but Germany had at one point here. Let's just go into the narrative of this game here. Excuse me. Germany, I don't know where I put all my pointy stuff. There we go. Makes it much easier instead of getting my great big fat hand in front of there and you can't see anything through my hand. So Germany at one point in time owned everything along the bottom here. They didn't own Bryansk or Tambov, but they owned everything along the Black Sea, and then they took the Caucasus. And the Russians were stuck just up on the top here. But then, one of many kill Germany first philosophies had a large forest land in Normandy for the British and the Americans. And the Germans, as a result, went, okay, we don't have enough guys here to kill it, so we're just going to back up and make a super stack in Western Germany. And the Italians also started building up a super stack here in Northern Italy. As a result, the Americans and British started to fan out and take over the rest of France, and they split their stack, which was just a slightly too large for the Axis to deal with, and then the Axis attacked the split stacks. The Germans acted as a can opener, attacked the stack, then and killed it. Then the Americans and the British attacked it again, or took it back, and then the Italians moved in there and wiped them out. And we just kept doing that here, where the Germans were acting as a can opener for the Italians, just because they had more stuff available at the time. The Italians had to take more time to move their stuff up. So this is how it sits now. Been a couple of Italian Allied fleets with transports eliminated here and here. They are no longer in existence. Yeah, Gibraltar's taken. The American fleet's actually sitting down here because the Italians actually had taken Central America to give the Japanese a hand, so that these American fleets, this one's actually new built here, but these American fleets couldn't get through and go hassle the American Navy or the Japanese Navy in the Pacific. But yeah, if it wasn't for the Japanese and their ability to attack both Russia on this side and the Americans on the other side, the Germans would have been crushed by the combined effort of Russia, which managed to successfully take itself back here. And they actually did own Romania and Albania, Greece, Bulgaria, a few things in here. However, once that invasion was repulsed, Germans started rolling back in. As you can see, they've taken all this stuff in Leningrad and set themselves up a bit of a line. The Germans did have this one. The Russians did move in there and take it back, but that's acceptable. I'm pretty sure the Germans can get that cleaned up here. Especially with these Japanese on this side here. They got a healthy stack of 10 men there and a couple of tacticals and a fighter. In fact, if the Japanese wanted to, they could send that stack down into India here. Why not? Send that stack down this way, build another one on the other side. India's done. So yeah, we declared this to be an Axis victory. I mean, we usually play until somebody surrenders. It's more fun than going, okay, by the rules on this turn, you don't have enough cities, even though you're about to. Yeah, this feels gamey. Kind of like the, yeah. So, yeah, we played a game of this. A lot of fun. As you can see, my table's got a lot of extra room when we were playing the Axis and Allies out-of-box Global 40. Europe and Pacific combined. But yeah, we've some ways this game was fun in comparison, because you could build a capital ship in one turn instead of 4. You could build a facility like a shipyard or a factory in a hurry. You didn't have to build it over turns. But at the same time, the amphibious assault rules are so easy to on the attacker that the attacker pretty much almost, it seemed like the attacker almost always held the upper hand in this game. right? There's no fortification bonuses. There's no city bonuses. There's no supply lines. There's no strategic rail movement. There's no purpose in buying Marines because there's no double casualties if you're not a Marine on an amphibious assault. Paratroopers, which we normally have starting turn 1 of the other game, kind of missed they were gone. Yeah, so, I think our next plan is to set up Global War 1936 to 1945, and we've always played the 36 version, and we like the immediacy of the game here, where you start off turn 1, you're fighting, right? There's no this like the build up and the movement of troops is a lot of fun, but sometimes you're looking at a good 4 or 5 hours of doing all that before you get into the actual nitty gritty of the game. So some of our players wanted to get her right in there. It's not for everybody. And yeah, what else did we notice? Yeah, this game felt a lot more gamey, and I don't mean that as in a totally negative light, but it after playing that historical board gaming game, this game feels it's a lot of fun, but it feels like you're playing, literally it feels like you're playing a simplified version of the game. Yeah, so it's funny, almost all the house rules I've seen on the accessanallies.org website, 3/4 of them are already incorporated in the historical board gaming's Global War 36 game. Yeah, so I see why I would have to house rule the crap out of this game if I was going to keep playing it. But as I said, it's a nice change. Few rules differences that took us by surprise. We started being those guys that were reading the rule book all the time, because for the last 2 years we've been playing that Global War 36 game. So there's a lot of stuff in here. It's like it's called the same thing, but it doesn't something similar, but the mechanics are slightly different. It's a little bit there's no supply lines. When, for example, Russia or Germany gets surrounded here in the other game, you can't build because you're not connected in the supply line to the materials you would need from your home country. But in this game, that doesn't matter, and you can build whatever you want, right? Kind of a bit gamey. Yeah, what else do we have here? Strategic rail move would have been handy. This map is tiny. They're especially here in Russia and Central Europe here, or Eastern Europe, on the border of Russia and whatnot. It's a really small map. China's actually about the same size, realistically, but Russia's so small. It was so easy for Japan to roll through, and in Global 36, Japan, it's just can't do this. There's not enough space. I mean, you can do that, but you're not gonna do too well. You're not gonna go far. Russia's so spread out; it'll just back off, envelop you, and eliminate you. All right, I'm not sure if I'm missing anything in here, but yeah, we've declared this an Axis victory. Reasoning being for that is this very obvious economic situation up here. This does not include any bonuses. So here, for example, Italy has every single national objective for an extra $21. So, they're not really making 36. They're actually making 57. Yeah, Italy's at 57. Germany's only gave a bunch of national objectives up to Italy, just to Persia, Iraq, and whatnot. But they're still making $20 worth of it bonus money. The Americans are getting their bonus money whittled down by the Japanese here, who are also increasing their bonus money. No bonus money's on here, but as you can see, the Axis have a economy of 61, 36, 46. They're well over 100. closer to 150 actually, and without bonuses. And the Americans, the Russians are way down here. This is the UK, and then we have the UK Pacific and Australia here, not doing so hot. And really, the only reason they're alive is because Japan decided, you know what, you're small beans. Let's get the U.S. crush going first. So these guys have been non-factors really, and France has been a non-factor since the start of the game, and has remained so. All right, so there's the economies of the game here. So we got 20, 41. All right, make it 60, 70 bucks plus the 47, right? So they're just barely over 100, and the axis here are sitting pretty good. Russia's been constantly saying, oh, every once in a while Russia was happy to catch up to Italy in income. That's a bad sign for the game, right? And it's been like that consistently. The Americans have been struggling to keep up with Japan and failed. Germany was, even when they were losing, France was consistently in the high 30s, low 40s. So, yeah, because Germany doesn't own France. Italy does. Anyway, fun game. A lot of fun. Very bizarre things have been happening. And yeah, as you can see, my table looks huge. This 4x8 table with this little game on there. Hopefully we'll get back into playing setting up my other game there, and I can continue on the strategy videos. And for Global War 36, I'm not sure who I'm going to do next there yet. I'll have to figure it out. But yeah, gotta clean this one up, set up the new one, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. All right, folks. Have a good one. Hopefully you're having a great weekend or day or whatever, whenever this is that you watch this. Enjoy yourselves. Bye.